Hey fairy tale friends, big and small. One little thing before we begin today. If you enjoy what you hear here on SoundTales, please hit like and subscribe to the channel and leave a comment. It might sound like a small thing, but for a little channel like this one, it's actually magically important. That's how these stories find their way to more kids. And if you'd like to support this work, there's a Patreon link in the description. Thank you so much. Now, let's begin. Hello there, little fairy tale friends, and a warm welcome to another bedtime story here on SoundTales. My name is Fina, and today's story is actually a listener request from 9-year-old William in Gothenburg, Sweden. He has listened many, many times to the fairytale playtime version of this story, and he has asked for a bedtime version. So here I am, to grant him his wish and help us all settle into stillness. Because it's going to feel so good to sleep now, isn't it? Can you think of something you did today that was very you? Something that maybe nobody else would have done in quite the same way. It doesn't have to be anything big. Maybe you said something wonderfully silly that made everyone laugh, or had an idea nobody else had thought of, or felt something in a way that's completely your own. Hold on to that feeling. It matters, and it's gonna come with us into the story tonight. But before that, let's stretch a little. Stretch your arms and your legs. Yes, just like that. And now, let's tense our bodies, starting with the toes and the feet and the calves and the knees and the thighs and your butt and your stomach and your hands and your arms and your shoulders up to your ears, and scrunch up your face like a raisin. Yeah, hold it. 3, 2, 1. Very, very good. Feel how your body sinks even deeper into the mattress and your head into your pillow. Now let's take 2 deep breaths together. Breathe in through your nose, hold your breath for a few seconds, and breathe out slowly through your mouth. Let's begin. Hold. And out. Good. Again. In. Hold. And out. There we go. Now it's just you, me, and the story. And today, we're gonna follow a boy that nobody quite understood, but who was perhaps the wisest of them all. This is William from Gothenburg's request, namely Hans Christian Andersen's Foolish Finn. Once upon a time, there was a princess who knew exactly what she wanted in a partner. Not gold, not a fine title, not someone who could recite laws and facts. She wanted someone who made her laugh, who made her think, who made her feel alive. So, the king had the royal trumpeter blow a message across the entire kingdom, and suitors came from near and far to try to win her heart. Far out in the countryside, behind a barn where dandelions grew and the goats ate the laundry, sat the youngest of 3 brothers, the one who always said things that were a little too peculiar, the one people shook their heads at, the one they rather unkindly called Foolish Finn. But Foolish Finn took the nickname with a shrug. He thought, just because people called me that didn't mean it was true. That he knew for certain. Sure, he didn't know all the difficult words. He didn't know who ran the country, but he could clap in rhythm, listen with his heart, and whisper secrets to kitty cats. And that's something too, isn't it? When his brothers rode off on their fine horses to meet the princess, Foolish Finn climbed onto his billy goat. It wasn't fast, but it could do something the horses couldn't: sniff out peculiar treasures along the way. They rode for a while in silence, if you can call it silence when a billy goat occasionally decides to express his feelings at full volume for no apparent reason. Suddenly, both the goat and Foolish Finn spotted something black in the ditch up ahead. It was a dead crow, a little dusty, and still a little regal, lying in the grass. Foolish Finn climbed down and looked at it for a long time. "Oh, poor thing. But you still have feathers like a royal cloak," he said quietly. He carefully picked it up and wrapped it in a handkerchief. "I'll give you to the princess. What if she collects unusual decorative animals?" A little further along lay a broken wooden clog with its upper leather loose right in the middle of the road. Foolish Finn turned it over and over and even sniffed it a little. Now this will come in handy for something," he decided. He tucked it in under his arm and climbed back onto the goat. After a while longer, the goat decided to leap straight into a ditch that turned out to be wonderfully muddy, full of sticky, ripe clay. Foolish Finn pressed his hand in and lifted out a large, gooey handful. "Oh, magnificent muck!" He nodded approvingly, squinting like a chef tasting his finest soup. "It has just the right consistency, not too dry and not too loose. Gourmet mud, this is." He carefully tucked it into his pocket and rode on, calmly, with the goat beneath him and the whole world in his bag. He wasn't late. He just moved at a different kind of time. The clever brothers arrived at the castle long before him. They went in to see the princess one at a time. And one at a time they came back out, eyes on the floor, confidence somewhere around their ankles. Because the princess had a test. Not a difficult test. Actually, it was quite a simple test, if you only dared to be yourself. But that, it turned out, was the hardest thing of all.
"Warm in here,"
said the first brother nervously, tugging at his collar. "Yes, we're roasting cockerels today," answered the princess calmly, raising an eyebrow at him. The brother stammered. He didn't know what to say to that. His mouth moved without a single sound coming out, like a fish who'd misplaced his water. And then nothing. Silence. "Next," said the princess. The second brother cleared his throat and took a run at it.
"Warm in here."
"Yes, we're roasting cockerels today," repeated the princess.
"Yes, well,"
he said, raising a scholarly finger.
"According to the second law of thermodynamics, it is of course entirely reasonable that the temperature in an enclosed space like this rises in proportion to the—"
"Next," said the princess, He froze mid-sentence and wobbled out with his chin down by his knees. A third suitor entered, one who had practiced in front of the mirror for 3 days.
Warm!
He said, a little too cheerfully. Cockerels, sighed the princess. He laughed loudly and artificially, as though he'd understood a joke he hadn't understood at all. The princess just looked at him for a long moment. Next, she said at last. Now the day was turning toward evening, and the princess was beginning to lose hope. It was then that the doors flew open and foolish Finn came riding into the hall on his billy goat. He had a dead crow in his bag, a wooden clog under his arm, and pockets full of mud, and a smile that said, I have everything to gain and nothing to lose. The princess's eyes widened, the scribes dropped their quills, and somewhere in the room came a small, suppressed giggle. The princess whispered to herself, Okay, this is new. Foolish Finn gave the goat an affectionate pat on the head and climbed off.
Oh, good Lord, it's warm in here,
said Foolish Finn. Yes, we're roasting cockerels today, said the princess with a wink.
Cockerels? With figs?
Said Foolish Finn, lighting up. The princess hesitated a second.
Oh man, that is perfect. I have a dead crow you could roast for me.
The princess laughed, a small, surprised laugh that she hadn't quite decided to laugh yet. Well, unfortunately, we don't have any pans free at the moment. Foolish Finn dug into his bag and held up the wooden clog with a solemn air of a chef presenting his finest pan.
This one? Oh, this is a specialty pan, with extra patina for extra flavor.
Said the princess. And what about sauce? The princess answered. He smiled so wide it barely fit his face, reached into his pocket and produced the mud.
Oh, look at this, ripened since this morning. Excellent consistency. I found it in a ditch just outside the city. Yes, a very good vintage, princess, I must say.
Now the princess laughed for real. Not a court laugh, not a polite smile behind her hand. A real, from-the-belly laugh that bounced off the walls of the great hall and made the scribes smile into their parchment. Finn was laughing too, and then they talked for a while, Foolish Finn and the princess, about crows and clogs and what you can really use mud for, about billy goats and why they scream, and whether there's any difference between a screaming goat and a singing goat, and whether the answer to that question depends on who's listening. And the princess noticed something. He talked with her, not at her, not past her or just to impress her, with her, as though her answers actually mattered to him. And then Foolish Finn reached for the last thing in his bag. Not the crow, not the clog, not the mud. Something he had carried the whole way at the very bottom. A small feather diadem, black as night, a little dusty.
I found this on the road. I thought if I met someone who needed to remember that she was free, she should have it, and I think it's yours, he said quietly. The princess went very still. The room went very still. Then she took it and put it in her hair and looked like a story all in herself. They got married,
and they laughed their way through the whole wedding and all the life that came after. The crow was buried in the castle garden beneath a silver-leafed tree. The goat was given his own little luxurious corner of the stables, and the clog hangs in the castle kitchen beneath a sign that reads, "The flavor lives in the patina." The end. And so ends Hans Christian Andersen's story of Foolish Finn. Now, we let our eyelids grow heavy. We take one last deep breath and let the whole body sink down into the mattress beneath us. And before you drift into your dreams, remember that feeling you thought of at the beginning, that thing that is uniquely yours, the silly, the creative, the thing that perhaps nobody else does in quite the same way as you do. That's your foolish Finn thing. And you know what? It isn't strange. It isn't wrong. It is exactly what makes you, you. And that is the most beautiful thing there is. You don't have to be like everyone else. You don't need the finest words, clothes, or the best polished shoes. You just need to be brave enough to be yourself. And remember, you're safe, you are loved, and you're always welcome here, where there are stories waiting just for you. So I'll see you again soon, right here on SoundTales. Sleep tight.